folks, and welcome to week 10's Remote Wednesday. I'm Emma, and today we are going to be talking about time and structure in a streetcar named Desire. You've got 3 tasks to complete over the course of this session. So the first one is to listen to this lecture and complete your notes. The next task will be completing the activities on your handout, and then finally uploading the pictures of your work to assignments for your teacher to check. So let's start with the events of the play. The actions of the play cover a period of around some 6 months and are divided into 3 clusters. So we start with the first 6 scenes, which stretch over the first few days of Blanche's visit in May. We then have an abrupt jump to mid-September, where we have scenes 7, 8, 9 and 10, which take place within 1 day. And then finally, the last scene follows some weeks later in October. The original stage production of the play divided A Streetcar Named Desire into 3 sections with intervals. So the first interval fell after the end of scene 4, and the second interval fell after the end of scene 6. We could see this model kind of effectively dividing the play structure, and that sort of led other critics on to consider A Streetcar Named Desire as being a 3-act play. So our first act, what Sidfield here in this kind of modified Freytag's linear structure calls the setup, would be scenes 1, 2, 3, the poker night, which would be really our inciting incident, and scene 4. So this is where the second thoughts comment is made on the slide, and the climax of scene 1 is Stanley looking over Stella's shoulder, knowing that he's heard Blanche's condemnation of him, and kind of foreshadowing that he's going to act on it. We then have our interval and Act 2. So Act 2 is what Sidfield calls the confrontation, and Act 2 would consist of scenes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and probably 10. So we have the date with Mitch. We have the reveal of her past and her late husband Alan Gray. We also have the birthday party of scene 7 and scene 8. Scene 9, we have the Mitch's attempt to sexually assault her, and then that could be seen as a kind of abortive attempt next to and that foreshadows Stanley's rape of Blanche in scene 10. This would then be the climax of Act 2, and that some weeks later for scene 11 would be Act 3, so the resolution. That kind of wrap up or ending is Blanche kind of being led away, and Stanley starting to remove Stella's blouse on the steps right at the end of the scene. So here we can kind of see a 3-act structure emerging here. We could also think about time differently. We could consider the 3-act structure mapping the different stages of Stella's pregnancy. So we know that she's roughly 3 months pregnant at the beginning of the play. And then we have Act 1, so up until scene 7-ish, scene 6, scene 7 being Stella's second trimester. And then when we arrive again back in mid-September, visually we can see Stella is a lot more pregnant. And Act 2 kind of maps the end of her pregnancy, and obviously she's taking away in scene 8 to the hospital to give birth. And then that would mean that Act 3 is the new life being brought to New Orleans, and the kind of recognition in the space that there is not enough room for the new life, and Blanche representing this kind of old, antiquated life. It's time to kind of move on and progress. For Williams, a play had more to do with merely reflecting reality as it is, or life as it is. It should be trying to express some universal insight into the human condition. His modes of dramatic expression are thus kind of plentiful, varied, complex, and his concept of plastic theatre places as much value on non-literary and non-verbal elements of drama, such as sound and lighting, movement, setting and design, as it does in dialogue, in terms of the ability to convey a theme or a character. So Nancy Tischler says that Williams's talent as a playwright was in his psychological understanding and characterization rather than plot and story. And Williams himself actually felt that his most successful structured play was his 1955 play Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which I would suggest kind of checking out at some point and comparing these two structures here. We then, if we're thinking that and believing that Williams wasn't intending the play to be divided into these three distinct structures, or to be evaluated within this three structure model, and instead to be looking at the psychological understanding rather than the plot structure as a whole, we might be thinking about the play as having an episodic structure. So one of the key structural features of his play is to structure each of the scenes around a dramatic climax, and every end of the scene has some kind of striking denouement, whether it's kind of Blanche having some kind of ambiguous final line at the end, whether it's the violent confrontation, for example. And I've got two critics on this slide that you're going to be looking at shortly. We have Onyet here saying that each of the 11 scenes ends with a punchline, a startling tableau, or arresting visual image. And we have Hearn as well here saying a Streetcar Named Desire is a collection of one-act plays. Each scene describes one situation or deals with an event fully enough for it to stand alone, with an exposition, crisis, and some kind of resolution. So your task, now that you've completed your notes here, is to complete the activities on your handout and upload a picture of your work to assignments. Thanks very much for listening, folks.